What's up, guys? Are you tired of constantly letting other people's words and actions affect you? Put you in a bad mood, make you have a bad day, totally drain your emotions? Well, do you long for the inner peace and the ability to remain unoffended in any situation? Well, look no further. We're going to talk about it today. Let's do it!
Let's go, man. Top 10! G, welcome back, man. Episode 5, season 2.
Let's do it.
You ready to get into this thing?
Let's go, man.
I love it, man. I love it.
So we're going to talk about a really good topic today that I struggle with. Do you struggle with being offended?
No, I don't.
So you're easily unoffendable?
I'm easily unoffendable.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I am unoffended most of the time.
Yeah.
But there comes times when, man, there's just certain triggers where things get under my skin.
Yeah.
And it will just stir in my mind all day long.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people deal with that.
I think they do too.
This world is easily offended.
It has, in our lifetime.
I mean, let's talk cancel culture. I mean, if we get instantly offended, we're canceling it no matter what. So talk to me, Blair. What does it mean to be offended? What does that look like?
In Blair's terms?
No, in just general terms.
Okay. Well, in general, the way I would describe it, all right, you ready? Walking around and letting other people's actions and words dictate your mood and your thoughts, and putting you in a bad mood because they did something that you didn't like or said something that you didn't like.
Yeah, I like how you phrase that. You let others' actions impact you.
That's right.
And that puts you in the bad mood.
That's right.
And ultimately, it's you that it impacts and it affects.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the 10 rules of how to be unoffended today. So let's jump right in. Rule number 1.
Choose to let go, man.
Choose to let go. And I love the word choose here because it's a choice.
It is.
And one of the things that we've said on this podcast before is you can't control what other people are going to do to you.
Exactly.
But you can control how you react
100%.
to it. And if somebody is just saying things to me that will upset me, get highly emotional, even if they're very personal and cut to the core, I have a choice on how I'm going to react to
Absolutely.
that. I can blow off the handle. I can get irate, angry, say words back to this other person that I can probably never take back, and it will cause me to spin, be an emotional wreck, hold a grudge, and some of these things have the impact of getting inside you and taking hold of you for years.
It's very hard. I don't say I don't, but it's extremely hard for me to get offended because people are going to be people. They're going to do what they want to do, and you can't control them. Even if you can't control what I say to you, but you can let go what I say to you.
Yeah. And I think so what we're saying here is that you will still feel feelings and emotions of anger and hurt and resentment, and that's okay.
Yes.
But you've got to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're saying. It's not that somebody can do something wrong to you, somebody can steal from you, somebody can hurt your family or even worse. But if you harbor that and hold that, it eats you alive. And that's what we're working on, is how do you find a different outlet to remove that so it doesn't eat you and take you home. So number 1, choose to let go, and it's a choice. Number 2, cultivate empathy.
This is a big one in this day.
So what this means is try to seek to understand where others are coming from, understand different perspectives. And this is really challenging because, and I'm going right to the good book here, right? So I'm looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3, and this is Paul. And I love this because he says, "As for me, it matters very little how I might be evaluated by you or by any human authority. I don't even trust my own judgment on this point. My conscience is clear, but that doesn't prove I'm right. It is the Lord himself who will examine me and decide. So what he's saying there is we can't even trust ourselves. Like we don't even know our own motives, our own intent. So if we can't trust ourselves, like how can we judge somebody else's motives?
That's right.
Like we don't know what they're walking through in that moment. We don't know what life situation happened to them in that moment. So how can we judge them? But we do it all the time.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I'm just saying it's somebody offends you and all you can look at it is how they made you feel.
Yeah.
And then you go to attacking them, and then you go to creating this own narrative in your head about them and why they did it. And it's just a downward spiral. And before you know it, you have made up your own narrative about this person, which could be completely from the truth. But then the other part is you have made all these excuses about yourself that justify why you're right and why they're wrong.
Yeah.
But you can't even trust yourself. So
Yeah, I like it. Well, I think that's a perfect segue into number 3, right?
let's do it.
Yeah. Self-reflection. Practice self-reflection. Look within yourself, look in the mirror, to recognize your own triggers and insecurities, because I think a lot of people, they don't see their own insecurities. They're just in there. And that's going to allow you to respond rather than react. And I love this one too that I was taught growing up. When something makes you mad, count 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's just, and I struggle with that even with my kids right now, right? They'll do something and I will catch myself reacting to that and I'm like, ah, and it's something I'm having to continue to work on to say, okay, look, he's a toddler, she's a toddler, they're 5, they're 3, calm down, then go, even if I've told them this thing 15 times.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we can take that practice and put it into play into the work environment or the social environment of when people do things. Put yourself in their shoes and then think about it. Then have that conversation or, then you can respond.
Yeah.
Too many people react too quickly nowadays.
Do you take time to journal or do daily reflections or morning planning? And even if you don't write it down, do you have time where you run these things through your head?
Yes, I do it in my car.
So what does that look like?
So I spend my morning after I drop my kids off coming to wherever I'm going is my quiet time. That's really the only time that I can in my stage of life right now. So I'm rolling through. Well, first I spend it in prayer. I always say prayer, right? That's just my time. And then I start building my day. But I also I'd look back at the week, right? So I'll try to look 3 days back and be like, okay, did I get done what I needed to get done? Who do I need to follow up with? How am I interacting with my employees, right? Hey, did they do something that I need to correct today? And I really, and this is something that I've learned being in a business world, is I try not to correct in the moment unless it is deemed absolutely necessary. I sit back and think on it, and then I will say, okay, now here's how we handle that situation. 10 years ago when I come in, I would have been like, why did you do that? Oh, that's wrong. And that doesn't work. Yeah. I reacted to situations instead of reflected on them and said, okay, how do we handle this?
Yeah. Yeah. I was reading a psalm, and I can't remember which one, but it's from David. And one of the things he says is basically if there is conflict or a quarrel, give yourself the night to think about it.
Yep.
And that's one that it just feels like it's so much easier to talk about it out loud to other people. and I'm doing this because I do it a lot. And the more you talk to more people, the more you justify your own excuses about how somebody was wrong and you were right. And then you begin getting people to take sides. And I think if we practice self-reflection more often, that would get us more into prayer to have those conversations with the one who can actually handle it and heal your heart. But it'll also allow emotions to settle, a clearer head, a calmer mind, and see things that probably weren't there, and see things from a different perspective, and maybe see yourself in a light that you didn't see yourself in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and how many people in your circle would actually tell you, hey, no, you're wrong? There's not many. I mean, and the ones that do, those are your good friends that'll be like, hey, no, like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, outside of that, people are going to tell you what you want to hear. No, you're right. That person did this. You're right. Well, in reality, that's, you know, you may be wrong.
Yeah.
You know, but people don't. A lot of times, people don't want to tell you the truth because they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, but they'll go behind your back and tell you how they how they really feel.
That's right.
Which brings us into rule number 4: forgiveness.
Yep.
I like to think that I am one to easily forgive, and the reason I do that is I just don't like holding on to grudges. I don't like being angry. I don't like being mad. I do find out that the later I get in my life, it's easier for me to get mad. It's easier for me to hold grudges. That's something that I'm working through. I think we all have to work through. But forgiveness is for you.
Correct.
And I think it's important that, if we're forgiving, we are freeing ourselves. And you can forgive and not forget.
That's right.
The whole forgive and forget thing is false.
I would agree with that. I think, if somebody wrongs you in a very painful way, like we talked about hardening our hearts, in previous episodes, like it's going to leave a scar, I keep going back to like these old things that I've been taught growing up. It's kind of like, putting a nail in a fence. You put nails in a fence and nails in a fence and nails in a fence, and then you go pull all those nails out. What's left? There's still holes.
Yeah.
And those are scars, right?
Yeah.
And so you can forgive that person, but hey, there's still going to be something there that you remember about that person, or that situation that may or may not ever go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's forgiveness is releasing whatever happened to you.
That's right.
And then letting that be between God and that person. And that's even asking, for forgiveness of yourself, of how you situate, allow God to let you see what the other person saw of you in that situation. But again, the grudge leads to a hardened heart.
Yep.
It leads to the lack of empathy, the lack to feel, and it steals your joy that you're going to have in other situations. And it's just a catastrophic downward spiral that will allow you to just be filled with bitterness instead of joy.
Right.
So you can let go. And there will be times, I think this is really important. You can forgive that person even if you don't talk to them.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't go and ask for forgiveness, you can ask and say, hey, God, release this from me. I can't deal with it anymore. I don't want to hold the grudge. And it will break that bond. I have done that. We go through a thing in church called Freedom. It's a big, it's a big curriculum, and this is one of the things that you work through, and it's very powerful.
It is.
It's healing and it's freeing. So, try that if you haven't done that. So number 5.
This is a big one.
Focus on the positive.
So, I think I've had a lot of people in my lifetime that always focus on the negative aspects. And in conversations with them, I asked them, I was like, this has got to be hard.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be hard that just everything in a day or in a life is just, well, this isn't going to work out, and this is this. And I mean, to me, I'm a very positive, but sometimes maybe to a fault.
Right.
Right. Because I think you can be. And that's something I've had to learn is, hey, not everything is going to be sunshines and roses and sunflowers. But I think there's a good balance there to trying to see the good in any situation rather than focusing on the negative. Because if you're dwelling on the negative, it's just going to put you in a bad mood. And, when it comes to being offended, if somebody says something that you don't like, I think if you go back through all the rules we just went through, and then maybe they were saying it in a joke, you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe they didn't mean to offend you, or, focus on the positive of the situation. Hey, maybe it's a time for you to have a discussion with them, and hey, you said X. it made me feel a certain way. And guess what? Now they're learning from it.
Yeah.
That's a positive outcome out of a situation.
And this is, I know people that are like this.
Yeah.
And I also know people that have come to me about these people. It's like, I want to compliment them.
Yeah.
I want to give them a
That's
compliment.
right.
Like, you look nice today. Oh, have you lost weight today? Have you been working out?
Yeah.
And they can't do it because that person will find a way to flip that compliment as an offense.
Yeah.
Oh, I've lost weight. Well, you that must mean I've lost muscle mass and I'm not working
Right.
out anymore. Oh, you look nice today. Well, do I look ugly the other days? You know what I mean? And then they're going to complain about not getting compliments or that nobody speaks life into them.
Yeah.
And but this too is, and we've talked about this before, is a lot of people want to have a victim mentality.
Correct.
Where everybody's out to get them, the world revolves around them,
Yep.
and they can only see through their perspective. And if we start seeing through other people's perspectives, and it goes back to looking at different people's perspectives,
Right.
we can see this. But isn't it so much more fun to be around people that you could put them in a rainstorm, they could be broke, they could have just gone through the worst scenario in their life, and they're thankful and they're grateful, and it's less about look at everything that has happened to me, and it's more about look at the path that I have to walk forward.
Right.
Look at how I can only go uphill from here.
Yeah.
Look at how I can only rise from the ashes here. And that's it's so powerful that people that have that ability and that mindset.
Well, it's freedom. You just mentioned that. Like that's when going through freedom, going through that course. Even if you're if you currently have that negative mindset, try and change it and look at the positives every single day, even if you're in dark times, because it will feel like a weight is lifted off your shoulders just by changing your mindset.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And the last thing I'll say there is that grace knows no boundaries.
Nail on the head, bud.
And if we're given grace, as bad of humans as we are and as naturally inclined to do bad, and we have grace, then who am I to not offer that same level of grace? Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Fit Fat Dad podcast. Join us next week as we break down rules 6 through 10 on how to live